It's been good. I think we started the season probably the toughest start we probably could have had. We had kind of Harrington, Hillabeath, St Genta, Camelin, I think all probably in our first 5. And to be honest, I think that probably came as a shock for some of us. I think probably didn't realise what the levels would be for some of them, because it's such a big step up. It probably needs to be taken into account as well that a lot of these boys last year were playing on public parks in Edinburgh. Some of them were playing, I've only ever played boys club, so it's been tough for them, but I feel that's probably the best possible start we could have had. It was really hard to get started in terms of finding a level maybe, but since then we've had some really good performances, and I'll go on to it and things, but for me I think we've got out of it what we wanted to start the year. We've had boys make appearances for the first team, we've had victories, which is great, but we've had, I think, boys come in because of what we're doing. It's been brilliant, been really good. I'm really proud of them. I think they made a good start considering, or a good go of it considering the start that we had. Where do I start? I think from kind of Gregor scoring his goal for the first team, the winner against Lochore, I think it was. For me, is the whole reason to some extent why we do this. We've had an U20’s player then go and step up and make a difference for the first team. Team-wise, for me, Leith away was superb. I felt, in particular for me, what resonates about that game was the fact that I thought in 25 minutes I thought we were excellent. I thought we then went 2-0 up. Jack Clark scored his first goals of the season, but from then on to half time I thought we were really poor. And what for me was really pleasing is we had a go at them for half time for it, and the group that we've got as they reacted, we went and won the game 7-2. Won the game 7-2 at Meadowbank Stadium. Now for me that's outstanding, that's outstanding. There's been good performances like when we played Stuart Allan. I felt that was actually defeat, and again it feels like a high point of the season because of the level of performance. Stirling are obviously the first team, the league side, and league above us as well, and anyone who supports Stirling or probably at the game who are still on the Stirling side of things could probably argue, but like for us I think we should have got something in the game. I think we should at least taken the game to extra time. We hit the post twice, I think. The keepers made 2 world days, but we were brilliant, we were absolutely brilliant, and that again showed me that we can compete at this level, and probably showed the boys that as well. So those two in terms of team performance have been really high. But again, like, and I'll go on to it, but the reaction at points this year, like this group's got character in terms of we've had a few low points, but we've also then bounced back and had some really good highs and some really good performances. But for me, in terms of standard performance this year, probably Leith, because of the game went in 2 ways, and I thought we showed a lot of character that night, to be honest. It's been really challenging. It's been a learning point for a lot of the games. I feel, for example, and I'll go on to probably Hillabeath, for me was the biggest difference that we've seen. Kind of, I think early in the season, off the top of my head, I think our average age was kind of 17 years old and 3 months. Hillabeath are 19 and on basically, most of them being 03s. And in that game itself, I think it took us about 65-70 minutes to tackle someone. And for me, I think that's probably where we saw the big difference. Not necessarily even that we got physically muscled or we got physically dominated in the game. We probably just stood off a wee bit too much. But as well, working in 2 ways, I think we've surprised a lot of teams. I think we've surprised a lot of teams in terms of being how young we are, but how good we are as well. But we are good going forward, and we are kind of energetic in what we do, and that's really pleasing. But for me, and I think I've said this to kind of a lot of people, and it seems like a scripted answer, but when we first started in the 20s, we wanted to make it a proper project, and what I mean by that is from the start kind of make sure that we've got players coming through. So coming through kind of currently we go 6s, 05s, 04s. We're not going to 03s, not that we don't take lads who are born kind of in the last year on the 20s, but what we do have is boys who've got kind of years at under 20s to kind of build up and kind of get used to the level to hopefully then get them involved with first team football. So for us, I think the good thing is that they're now getting used to playing against boys who are older than them, and that is so important when you come and play first team football. You often see kind of in SPL clubs, young players going out on loan to kind of lower league clubs. That's how they do it, and getting these lads exposure to playing guys who are older than them is absolutely vital. As I said earlier, a lot of these boys have only ever played against kind of guys their age, and lads their age, from under 13s to kind of under 17s, under 18s. This is massive for them. So by doing what we're doing, we feel like we're giving the best possible chance to get ready to go and play first team football. But probably the physicality has been a surprise for some. But by the way, we're getting there, absolutely getting there, definitely. Harrington, first game of the season probably, or Hillabeath. The Harrington one probably hurt the most in terms of, I think, during pre-season I thought we competed really well for the majority. And we showed some really, really good quality. Harrington game didn't get, I thought first half, I thought we competed well in Edinburgh. Again, with Volvo Harrington, we will probably argue, well, they had a lot of the ball and they created more chances, of course they had more of the ball. But we were in the game at 2-1 at half time. The 2 goals from our perspective could have been defended better. And in the second half we capitulate, absolutely capitulate. And that was probably the disappointing thing, because by the way, those boys worked their socks off in pre-season to try and get to the position they were and get ready for the start of the season, and probably the second half performance didn't do us justice at all. That was a low moment in terms of being the first game of the season as well, going, gee, we've got a full season of this. But again, it relates to back to what I said earlier on in terms of this is a group of character, and that's what we want with boys. We're really, really big on mindset, being resilient, level of communication on and off the park, really, really important for me. But that resilience and that mindset and that kind of application is massive, and we've got that in abundance in terms of on the park and bouncing back from things on the pitch. The other one I would say as well is Hillabeath. Just that's probably again the furthest most performance I've seen from one of my teams. I felt at half time, I want to say it was 5 or 6-0, and again, as I said earlier, we took 60 minutes to tackle someone. But in the second half, again, okay, I think we lose 3-0, but we're a lot better and we tackled. In terms of it shows how much if you kind of back off a game or kind of throttle back, how hard you can get punished from it. So again, probably 2 of the lowest points of the season. But again, boys bounced back from that. I'm delighted, absolutely delighted. Again, it comes back to why we're doing this. I think there were sceptics at the start of the season, and I think we're getting into, again, a lot of people might be now seeing the true reason, the true kind of purpose behind the under-20s. I've now seen, I think, 4 make a full debut now in terms of competitive games, but we've had, I think, nearly 8 or 9 they've now even been on a bench. That's what it's all about, and you're getting boys who, by the way, majority have an EH42 postcode, which again is not the criteria to come and play for the under-20s or for Dunbar United, but predominantly under-20s what we want to see is local lads coming through and playing for the first team and playing for the local team, and that's what we're getting. I feel Kevin, Smalley, Dunny, when anyone ever has been in the first team, they've been absolutely brilliant, and for me, having experienced and seen previous models on the 20s, I think the boys here are very, very lucky in what they've got. There's no big gap in terms of kind of attitude towards the 2 teams. The first team players are always welcome and they're I want to say somewhat pleased to see lads coming and give them the chance when they're ready. And that for me is massive, because I think it's easy for first team players to see young players come in and be negative towards it, but genuinely I can't speak highly enough of kind of the first team boys who have seen the lads come in, and also Kev, Dunny and Smalley who have supported them in doing so, because for young players who have only ever played with their mates and only ever played with the kids that they've gone to school with, going and playing with kind of guys who have played kind of over 100, 200, 300 career appearances in men's football can be daunting for them. But I can't speak highly enough in terms of the environment they've gone into, and that probably speaks volumes in terms of how many have either gone in, keep coming back and training. So yeah, I'm absolutely delighted, but again, a huge amount of credit needs to go to the football club in terms of the first team, in terms of how the 2 teams between the under-20s and first team operate. because I've seen models out there, and for me, I think we're getting things right. And I think that's proven the case in terms of how many we've had involved with the first team. Quite a lot, I think. Again, probably going back to what I said earlier on about kind of the physical side of it, it's been really important. The boys have got to grips with that. I think the physical side of it has been big. I feel as well in terms of the boys throughout the season have had to play. We've had to adapt and played a couple of different shapes this year. And the boys have been really good in taking on information. I think it's quite clear to see, and to be honest, it's actually a trend across the whole league about the quantity of goals that are going in. But what we've learned is you can't defend the box in a lazy manner. You have to defend the box like your life depends on it. You have to hate conceding goals. I mean, you get a goal, when you go and get ahead in the game, you need to look after that lead and do well in that sense. Too many times we're conceding too many goals after just scoring, or we're conceding too many goals in general. Like you look at the Pennycook game, for example, that was genuinely a basketball game, and Pennycook are a good side, but equally we got ourselves back into the game and got it back to 2-2. Then we end up I think we're leading at 3-2, and then we lose the game 7-4 because we at points in the game where we are just quite poor defensively. But that's the nature of kind of under-20s football, and that's the learning for these boys in terms of stop conceding goals, stop having a kind of a culture of accepting conceding goals. You need to be better, and you need to defend that box with kind of your life. So. Outstanding, absolutely outstanding. I can understand from a parental standpoint it might be frustrating. Kind of, obviously, when these lads go and play, they'll be taking someone's place. But it's a massive learning experience, and I think in terms of across the season we've had Shea, we've had Tomo, we've had Kerr, Fraser Neve, obviously Smudger, Johnny Ed, Aaron. We've had a lot of players play for us across the course of the season. And Sean Brennan as well, and I can't speak highly enough of what they've been like. I remember after the Nitton game in pre-season, Sean played in goal, and wee Harry came up to me and goes, honestly, I love playing with like having Sean in goals, because he just talks you through the game and just gives you information, and that's what what's the beauty of this, and people probably don't see, is whether you're a goalie or whether you're across the whole pitch, is these guys have played so many career games. Sean, for example, has played in the professional football leagues, and then you still got kind of Smudge who's coming and playing, and but we are no illusions, right? It makes our team stronger when these guys play. They're paid to play football. That's how it works. But whilst it's frustrating that obviously some of these lads are being displaced by them to play, is that the learning opportunities that you get from it are massive, absolutely massive. So for example, if you're a sitting midfielder, you should be watching Smudger and what he does, or Aaron. If you're a centre half, you should be watching when Kerr or Tomo played. But it's a huge learning experience, and it's massive for these boys, and something again they've never had before, they've never been able to learn from before. Second thing again I'd like to add to that is like when these guys have come down, they've been absolutely brilliant. They've been absolutely brilliant. Now, I'm young for a coach, I'm young for under-20s manager, I'm 24, but again these guys kind of know where the lay of the land is, and they have been absolutely brilliant in terms of with the boys, and with us in terms of when they've come down and played. They've given great information to guys, they've been an absolute credit to the first team. I think what's been so good as well is, again, I'll stop giving everyone credit in a minute, but when we first started, Kevin asked for me to go along and to kind of bridge that gap between the 20s and the first team. Again, I think that's helped massively. I haven't seen previous under-20s models in terms of under-20s first team players would come down and play for under-20s and almost see it as a punishment. And that's not the way it should be, and that's definitely not the way it is here. These guys come down for game time, but they also almost see it as a coaching opportunity in terms of helping these lads, because one of these lads might come play in the first team, and when there's an injury or there's that opportunity. So it's been absolutely brilliant, but again it comes in two ways, and I can't speak highly enough of the guys who have come down and played, because they've been absolutely brilliant. think next year, go and push on again in terms of go and see how many more players we can get, kind of as many periods as we can in the first team. I think, and being probably a wee bit selfish here, go and try and push at league to probably where I think we are. I think we've probably a wee bit of a frustrating thing is we've probably not, in terms of score lines, probably given ourselves justice against some of the teams we've played. Whitburn, last week was probably a good example. That we lost 5-1, but for 65 minutes what were excellent. It's hard to say when you're losing 5-1, but we kept the ball well, we created chances. Again, when we played Musselburgh, I thought we were the better side for a long period. Well, maybe not even the better side, but we had good chances. In the first 15 minutes, I think we probably should have been 3 up. The keeper's made a couple of brilliant saves, but in that turn, we lose the game 2-1. And that's not me saying at all that Musselburgh didn't deserve to win the game. They're a good side, strong side, the league position shows that. But when you have kind of those quantity of chances that early in the game, you need to win it. You need to go on and win it. And probably didn't do that, and that's probably again another learning. But for me, next year, it's probably to go and show and compete against the teams that we know we can, but probably in a more reflective scoreline and how the game can go. Another thing is probably going to attract players and go and keep building towards next season. A lot of the players are young, so potentially some of them going to university. Understand it's important that we continue to build and make sure that we've got kind of a pathway to the first team. Ultimately, that's what U20’s is. It's a pathway to the first team. And we need to keep building that. And for what it's worth, the club kind of deserve a huge amount of credit again in terms of what they provide in the U20’s. We've got a VO camera, we've got access to GPS vests, we've got some of the best facilities around. It's brilliant, it's absolutely brilliant. So I can only see good things coming in the new year. Very much looking forward to it.